Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me today. This is Jama Malmi, and I am sharing a layout that I made using the Fresh Air paper pack in compliments from Close to My Heart. This paper pack is perfect for your outdoor adventures. I really love all of the patterns, especially this really beautiful scenery with the pine trees background that I wanted to use for the background of my layout because I love it so much. And so I am not using a Workshop Your Way kit this time. I know a lot of times I do that in my process videos, but what I am using is this book that you see right here. It is the Make It From Your Heart book from Close to My Heart that has a bunch of scrapbook layout blueprints to use, and I was combining a couple of different ideas from two of the layouts for my layout. Although you'll see here I am playing with various layouts and various papers and trying to decide which papers to use from the pack. Something I wanted to note is that I didn't use any cardstock. I used only the patterned papers from the paper packet. Some of the papers, like that lighter color you see there, is solid enough to use as a in place of a cardstock, but it gives a little bit of texture still that has kind of like a burlap texture to it. Or it's not actually textured, but it's a burlap print that gives the illusion of texture. And then the back of it is a lighter color that's more of like a linen look. And then I used several of the zip strips, so all of the paper from the paper packets come with that 1/4 inch zip strip that you can cut right off like I did, and use them sort of as a separator or embellishment. I use them sort of like as a replacement for ribbon. I don't really like using ribbon on my layouts, and so that's sort of how I use them, and you'll see how I use them in several different ways on this layout. So I went with the zip strip that has the pine trees on it. I thought that was a cool one, and all of the colors and shapes went with the background paper that I'm using. So I printed all of my pictures at home on my selfie printer, and I did do a video showing how I did that, and I actually used these photos, or a couple of these photos, as in that video. So I will link that below if you'd like to watch how I print my photos at these smaller sizes. I printed them at 3x4, and then I've got one 4x6 photo, actually a couple 4x6 photos. And so I like using the smaller photos sometimes so I can fit more on my layout. And then you'll also see that I am going to be adding the Pocket Plus page protectors in the middle of my layout to add even more photos. So that allows me to add more 3x4 photos. We went on a hike at a beautiful waterfall in Oregon, about an hour from us, a little over an hour from Eugene, Oregon. And I got some really fantastic photos during this hike, and so I wanted to fit all of them on my 2-page layout without having to do another layout or another page. I wanted to fit them all on here. So you'll see the Pocket Plus page protectors that I'm going to add, and I have done, and I've used in a lot of my videos. I just love them to add more photos. So I keep futzing. You're just seeing my whole process here, kind of rearranging my photos, deciding where I want them, deciding where I want to add the compliments, and I just like to move things around a little bit and play with the placement before I decide. A lot of what goes into my thought process is what colors are in the photos. So these photos are mostly green and natural colors, but my daughter's wearing the pink shirt, my son has the navy shirt, and then I have a bright green shirt. And so I wanted to balance the pink in my daughter's shirt mostly throughout the layout so that your eyes sort of dance around, as my friend Kelly says. So your eyes dance around the layout, and if all of the pink were in one spot or one side of the layout, it would kind of make it unbalanced, and it having it spread out sort of forces your eyes to move around all of the photos on the layout. Just like any design element, whether you're adding stickers, cluster embellishments, anything like that, you want everything to be balanced. And so I do pay attention to that in my photos as well. If I had just a couple of photos, for example, of my daughter in her pink on the left side of the layout, and I didn't have any more to use, I would probably want to add some sort of pink element on the right side of the page just to guide the eyes. So anyways, back to what I'm doing. I cut the title of the layout out with my Cricut, and I used the Cricut Artiste cartridge from Close to My Heart, which is now retired, but there are lots of fonts that you can use from your computer to get this simple look. And then I inked around the edges of all of the letters to give it more dimension and make it pop, and I liked that look that it added. It took a bit of time, but I really loved the extra addition that it gave. I didn't ink anything else on the layout, just those. But you'll see up at the top there is a smudge of ink in the top of the layout, and so at this point I was really peeved about that, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to cover that up? If it were off to like the right hand side, it would be easier to add a little embellishment up there, but I do end up making it work, and I do end up adding an embellishment cluster over on the right that extends to cover it. So hang tight to see how I do fix that. In the meantime, I am adhering all of my photos. I sort of at the last minute was deciding that I might change which photos I add. Some of them I had cut a little bit too skinny, but I ended up just making it work. The one of my daughter on the top actually is a little bit skinnier than all the others, but it blended enough that it didn't really make much of a difference. I couldn't tell too much. So, I'm adding all of the photos down now, and those cute embellishments. I don't know if you can tell very well, but those trees and those like shiny embellishments, the chipboard embellishments that I'm adding, they are copper foil. So they are super shiny and add a little bit of bling to this otherwise pretty organic looking page. And so I really like that because I am definitely a bling girl, and so it adds some bling in sort of a subtle way that makes it still very outdoorsy. So I love that part of these compliments. And again, playing with my embellishments, deciding how to glue them down and where I want them and everything. Here I'm going to add my title, and I thought it was cute. As I was laying out my title, it was kind of long and went a little bit past the photos, and so since it was a waterfall, I thought it was cute to make the letters fall down like a waterfall. So that's why I did that, and trying to figure out how to add some journaling. I wanted to just add the date here. I thought it needed a little cluster down there, but I thought that little journaling sticker was too big, and trying to figure out how to make it fit. And so what I end up doing is actually just cutting it. It's just a sticker. It's a heavy cardstock sticker, but it's just a sticker, so I cut it, and then I can use the other half for something else. And this gives the perfect little spot to add the date and add a couple other little embellishments from that compliments pack. By the way, this journaling pen is from Close to My Heart. It's a Le Pen journaling pen, and I didn't think I would love it so much, but I love it. It is my new favorite journaling pen, so I highly recommend it. It's not a stark black pen. It's sort of like a charcoal grayish black pen. It says black, but it's not like a super duper dark black, so I really like that. It just kind of blends in with whatever your page is. So adding some finishing touches, and then I am going to tackle how I'm going to cover up that ink spot at the top. You know, I usually don't get upset over mistakes like that because I view it as an opportunity to embellish, and in this case I probably wouldn't have added anything up at the top of the page, but looking back I think it really did need something up there. So I'm glad that this forced me to do that. You know, I probably would have, if I did finally realize that it needed something up there, I probably wouldn't have done it how I did it, but I do love how it ended up turning out. Got to use more bling. Those triangle arrows are part of the chipboard pack, and they are the copper foil, so they add a nice fun touch up there, more bling up there, and it ends up working out just fine. The little flags that I did are, some of them are scrap pieces of paper, and some of them are from the zip strips, scraps from the zip strips. So I've got to use a few other patterns up there to tie everything in together. And so now you can't even tell that there was an ink smudge up there. Okay, so, oh, and here is the shimmer brush. I am obsessed with this thing. This is the clear shimmer brush. Adds a real subtle shimmer. I'm sure you can't see it on the screen, but it's just the perfect amount of shine. Again, this is a very organic, neat, natural layout, but it adds just a perfect amount of shine. I was trying to pick up the shine, but you still can't even see it on the camera, but it really is beautiful in person. Those shimmer brushes are only $4.95, and they're like the Wink of Stella shimmer brushes, or the there's another brand that has them now too. They're very similar, but I think these ones, the price point is better, and the barrel is pretty big. It holds a lot. So now here is the Pocket Plus page protector that I mentioned earlier. This one is a 6-inch wide one. So if it's 2 3x4 portrait orientation photos, and it just so happens that just about all of the photos that I took on this day were portrait orientation. So I just printed all of them that I wanted at the 3x4 size on the selfie printer, and the way I do that is I collage it to 2 photos per 4x6, and then I print it. And again, I'll check out the process video on how I do that. Not so much a process video, but just a how-to video on how I do that. So these pages, that page that you see there with all of the different squares, that's a cut-apart page that is included in all of Close to My Heart's paper packs. And so I was cutting down some of the one on the top right, the Escape, was actually a 4x6 that I cut down to 3x4 because I wanted to fit it on here. I liked it. And then I think that log one, it was a 3x4, and I'm putting one of the stickers from the compliments pack on there. And I really like these cut apart papers. You could also use any of the papers from the paper pack and just cut them down to the right size, but these add a little bit different look than the papers you get in the paper pack. So it's fun to have some variety and some different options. Apparently I didn't like how I had cropped the other 4x6 photo, the first one, so I cropped it down again, the second one. And I'm cutting these down, if I remember correctly, just slightly smaller than 3x4 so that they fit nicely in the pocket. And now it's time to embellish. I used glue dots to hold down the embellishments, the chipboard on the page protectors. And I've mentioned this before, but I do like to add my embellishments on the outside of the pocket pages, just because they add a little bit of bulk, so it's kind of hard to fit in those small pockets. And then also I like them to overlap sometimes, like the one on the back overlapped, and You can see it through just a little bit on the other side, but that doesn't bother me. So here I am cutting down a 4x6 page to 3x4 for my journaling spot, and I'm going to add my journaling here. I'm putting that chipboard piece, which I kept trying to fit on the main part of the layout and never worked, but now I finally have it fitting here. And I was holding that in place just so that I would know where it would fall, but I actually then adhered it on the outside of the pocket. And I'm just going to finish up with my fine-tuning, my detail embellishing now, trying to get some more of that foiled, those foiled embellishments on the layout here. Pocket scrapbooking really is very different from 12x12 scrapbooking, and it's so fun to be able to do both. So anyways, thanks for watching so much, and all of the products are linked below. Have a great day.